young, 3-year-old thoroughbreds in the first flush of their talent, half matured, but none have run 1.25 miles, and today they'll learn how difficult that is. It's for the young at heart, for Tommy Volando, a successful music publisher for decades, who has found new excitement in the first horse he has raced by himself, Fly So Free, one of the favorites in today's race. Of all the songs Tommy Volando has published, the one that reminds him most of Fly So Free is Young at Heart. The Kentucky Derby is for the young. It was for Steve Cawthon at age 18. He won the Derby on Affirmed and went on to sweep the Triple Crown. But the Derby is for the young at heart, too. For Bill Shoemaker, winning his 4th Kentucky Derby at age 54, celebrating the victory with his old pal Charlie Whittingham, winning his 1st at age 73. The Derby's for the young, gathered in the infield by the tens of thousands, celebrating a rite of the American spring as much as they celebrate the race itself. And it's for the young at heart. It took Frances Genter a half-century just to get a horse to run in the Derby, but when she did, it was unbridled, winning last year.
Kentucky Derby. Oh, Miss Genter, I love you. Oh.
Yes, this race, the greatest race of all, is for the young. And it's for the young at heart.
And if you should survive to 105, look at all you'll derive out of being alive. And here is the best part. You have a head start if you are among the very young at heart.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. In our 30th anniversary season, this is ABC's Wide World of Sports. The first Saturday in May, old Churchill Downs, beautiful horses and brave riders, 125,000 people, my old Kentucky home, and the Kentucky Derby. Maybe that's why we all feel young at heart on this day, because it's always the same. It's never missed a running since 1875. Through wars and floods and tornadoes, somehow the Derby always goes on. We're young at heart when we remember the first Derby we ever saw, or maybe we heard the exciting, gravelly voice of Clem McCarthy describing it on the radio. The Derby's enthusiasm and tradition and all the years of our lives, because it's always been there since the day we were born, no matter our calendar age. It's time to be young again. As ABC Sports presents the first leg of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge, the Kentucky Derby. Hello, I'm Jim McKay. So we've traveled the long road to the Derby again, to Florida, then California, Kentucky, New York, and back to Kentucky, following and getting to know the best of the 3-year-old thoroughbreds. Today we have everything that we have learned along the way wrapped into one package for you. So before the race begins, you'll know much more about the horses, the owners, the trainers, and the jockeys than you do right now. I can tell you there are 4 top favorites. Fly So Free, the champion 2-year-old of 1990, winner of the Florida Derby. Strike the Gold, conqueror of Fly So Free 3 weeks ago in the Bluegrass Stakes. There's Best Pal, this year's challenger from the West Coast, and Hansel, the current favorite in the odds, an improving horse on a 2-race winning streak. We've come up with an absolutely interesting day, let's say. It's overcast. It's been very warm and muggy, temperature in the high 70s. Still looks like we could have rain, but we don't at the moment. But temperature-wise, it is a perfect day for ladies' silk dresses and the jockeys' silk blouses. Now, though, let's move over to my ABC Sports colleague, now a thoroughbred owner himself, Mr. Al Michaels.
James, I am just following in your footsteps, and save me a spot in the winner's circle someday, will you? You know, none of us know what will take place in the Kentucky Derby, but there's a good chance we're going to leave here today with a vivid memory. Consider the recent history of this race. Go back 5 years, 1986. The tremendous ride by Bill Shoemaker on Ferdinand, who took Ferdinand from last to first for Charlie Whittingham. Then in 1987, coming down the stretch, Ali Sheba clipping heels with Bet Twice, but Chris McCarron was able to right him and ride him into the winner's circle. In 88, the filly came to town, winning colors. She took the lead out of the gate, turned around and said, "Catch me if you can, boys," and they couldn't, and she went wire to wire. In 1989, you had the great East-West confrontation, the beginning of a tremendous rivalry between Sunday Silence and Easy Goer, with Sunday Silence winning it for Whittingham. And then last year, well, you just saw it on the videotape, the unforgettable scenes with Frances Genter and Carl Nosker calling the race for her, unbridled crossing the line. What memory will we take with us today? Well, we'll know in about 60 minutes. The Kentucky Derby, the particulars. The purse is over $900,000 with about $650,000 to the winner. The distance is 1.25 miles. The track condition is fast. We had a light sprinkle last night, no problem. The temperature is a humid 74 degrees. And now the field. These are not the post positions, but the program numbers. We'll have the posts for you later. Fly So Free starts from the inside. He is 4-1. Number 2 is Allie David at 16-1. Sea Cadet is a speed horse, figures to go to the front, 14-1. Strike the Gold is 4-1, and the favorite as we come on the air today is Hansel, who has won his last 2 races. He's 2-1. Then there's Lost Mountain, a long shot at 60-1. Maine Minister comes east from California at 70-1. Wayne Lucas's Corporate Report with some decent backing at 8-1. Happy Jazz Band, the board only goes to 99-1. We've computed it. He's actually 104-1 if you're interested. Best Pal is 5-1. Quintana, a long shot, is 25-1. And then if you like any of these horses, you bet one, you get them all. They comprise the field. Wilder Than Ever, 40-something Green Alligator, Paulris, and Another Review at 14-1. Not just $900,000 at stake today, but a lot involved in the Triple Crown as well. If you start all 3 races and win any of them, first place is worth 10 points. Second place this year worth 5. Third is 3. Fourth place for the first time is worth a point. 1 point for fourth. The horse with the most points takes home $1 million. If a horse sweeps the Triple Crown, $5 million to that horse's connections. So those are the particulars for the 117th running of the Kentucky Derby. And let's send it back down to you, Jim.
All right, Al, let's have a look right now. There he is, one of the favorites, Fly So Free. You know, he knows it's race day because he hasn't been fed since breakfast. The life of a thoroughbred always is a very long, highly structured adventure starting in Perth.
Nearly 50,000 times a year in late winter, this scene is reenacted at thoroughbred nurseries throughout the United States. Within an hour of birth, legs which will someday fly upwards of 30 miles an hour are test-driven for the first time. But for nearly 8 months, keeping up with Mom will be the only competition. In September comes the trauma of weaning. But once separated from their mothers, weanlings enjoy each other's company and 12 months of fun and freedom as they grow into yearlings.
Well, there's a wide look at Churchill Downs, and from overhead in the blimp, there is a huge crowd in the infield this year. They tell us now that the attendance is right around 130,000. There's Al Hurt, not blowing the bugle today, just enjoying himself. Michelle Phillips is here. Up in the stands, John Goodman himself. Getting me one of the big names, Jennifer O'Neill. Yes, indeed. They've come from all over the country, from all over the world, in fact. Well, you know, to own a thoroughbred is a thrill, I can tell you that. To win a race is memorable, but to run a horse in the Kentucky Derby, and one of the favorites at that, well, that's like having a blockbuster hit on Broadway.
Tradition! Tradition! Tradition!
Where are the clowns? Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret.
Life has been one long outdoor cabaret for music publisher Tommy Volando since he came up with a colt named Fly So Free. Tommy's on the road again. Now home is where the horse is.
We now live wherever the horse is. That's our life and it has been since he started winning races. And it's like being on the road with a show. You know, you're just with it until it opens.
Well, the tryouts were terrific. Fly So Free won last year and became the 2-year-old champion. And this year, he swept Florida's 3 big races, the Hutchison, the Fountain of Youth, and the Florida Derby. But 3 weeks ago, he was beaten by Strike the Gold. But Tommy wasn't depressed by that.
We've gotten spoiled, I think. We have won every race since he started back as a 3-year-old. If you win them, they're great. If you lose them, you don't really lose them. You come back and race again.
Fly So Free has been the big horse for trainer Scotty Schulhofer all along, although at one time he had 3 top Derby prospects, but Scan faded and Cahill Road came back lame after winning the Wood. But Scotty has no worries about Tommy.
Tommy, he knows what winning and losing is, although he hadn't been into the horse business game, but I think he was with the show business, he understands that.
Racing makes close friends of strangers. Scotty and Tommy are a team now. Scotty, the trainer, looking for his first Derby win, and Tommy, the music publisher, a man who knows a hit when he sees one, and knows, too, just how hard it is to get there.
Getting to the Kentucky Derby is very much like finally getting to Broadway with a show and having it open and be a hit. It's the same kind of thing. It's an exciting, wonderful, great experience. That's why I'm so glad we're in it, Elizabeth and I, because it's made us closer together and something we can share and have fun with and love.
Young at Heart was written on this piano in Tommy's office a long time ago. Fairy tales can come true. But will it be today? And there they are in their box. What a big day it is for Elizabeth and Tommy Volando. Well, you know, Scotty Schulhofer knows all about ups and downs. He was a frontline infantryman in World War II. And here he is now with Charles E. Canty.
Well, it has been a tumultuous spring for Scotty Schulhofer, and even now, when Fly So Free entered the Derby as the favorite, he was perceived as vulnerable, Scotty, because of his loss in the Bluegrass Stakes. How do you see that defeat?
Well, I don't think, I feel like just throw that out. I gave Santos orders to take back off the pace and wait for Strike the Gold to come running, and I thought we could outrun him. The horse was a little rank, and of course there wasn't any pace in the race, so he was a little rank, and Jose had to restrain him a lot more than I was hoping for. And then when he asked him to run, he said he couldn't get a hold of the track. He got to slipping and sliding, so I think, you know, the 2 counts, I'll have to throw it out and hope for the best.
Today you've drawn the #1 post position. Now, how are you going to adjust your tactics? If you don't want him rank, will you be taking him back?
Well, we'll wait and see how Jose wants to ride him. I'm not going to give him any orders. I'm going to let him ride him to himself. If he breaks running, he'll probably be right there. If he doesn't, he'll maneuver him in he's a pretty good rider, and he knows what to do. And the best race the horse ever ran was in the Fountain of Youth, and he came out of #1 post position. So I think he'll handle the situation real well.
All right, Scotty, quickly, in case it rains, what about an off track?
Well, everybody's got to run over it. We just hope we'll be able to handle it.
All right, Scotty, good luck this afternoon.
Thanks a lot.
Well, still no rain at this moment. Here's the jockey's eye view from the tunnel leading to the track, to the roar of the crowd, to the playing of my old Kentucky home, and perhaps to victory in the Derby. It's a long way from the early breaking process.
The breaking of yearlings begins in September, and like preschoolers, horses too have basic lessons to learn. In a confined area, the yearling is introduced to each piece of equipment he must wear, progressing to the next stage only when the previous is comfortably accepted, a matter of several weeks. Completing this stage without injury or fear is the objective. Patience is critical, for this is the foundation of a lifetime at the races.
10 years. His hair is a little...
In some quarters, Strike the Gold, whose connections are based in New York, don't get no respect, as they say, even though he beat Fly So Free in their last meeting. Now, Dave Johnson sees this colt as more than a flash in the gold prospector's pan.
You know, at Nick Zito's barn these days, you're more likely to see 3 limousines as you are 3 maidens. Maiden being a racetrack term for a horse who has yet to win. Nick has come a long way since he was Johnny Campo's assistant. And I think he's become as adept at training owners as horses.
Last year, we were introduced to a horse whose name is part of a game, 36 Red. And behind him, 2 men eager to play for high stakes. This year, trainer Nick Zito and owner B. Giles Brophy are in the game again, this time with Strike the Gold. All eyes were on this colt when he beat the early Derby favorite, Fly So Free, in the Bluegrass Stakes. And America saw that in the case of this pairing, 1 and 1 were adding up to much more than 2.
You know, I hugged him for the Bluegrass, and I told him right after the race, you know, I said, thanks for the opportunity. And I had tears in my eyes because he's let you know, people see that, you know, we can train horses and we work hard, and that's what he's done for my career.
He never had the bloodstock to work with. All I did was give him some decent bloodstock to work with. And, hey, he shows what he can do.
B. Giles Brophy has shown the world what he can do. Between bond trading and cattle, well, deals are this man's business. And a deal is what he struck when he took on 2 partners in the buyout of Strike the Gold. Brophy is a successful New York businessman, and so is one of his partners. But the other, well, you see, games are his business. Lots of them. Pictionary, Trivial Pursuit, and many more. He struck the gold in this world and then parlayed his interest in children to baby diapers. To this businessman, fun and games are the bottom line.
It was bringing fun to a lot of people throughout the country. Millions and millions of people have played the games, and that's enjoyable to me. Hopefully the diapers will bring enjoyment to many baby bottoms and mothers.
But somehow you get the feeling all 3 partners keep horse racing in a very fun perspective. But nobody ever said having 3 owners for 1 horse would be easy.
Well, having 3 owners when I was in Keelan, you know, and they put me right in the middle. And it was like I was, you know, having a powwow, and I was, you know, surrounded with Indians. And then when the horse won, I was elated, and I jumped up because I knew I was going to get out with my scalp.
Today, he may get out with the roses. And they're the owners of Strike the Gold, playing the Derby game for some very high stakes today. Now let's join our colleague, Jack Whitaker.
Dave, thank you. 50 years ago, in the spring of 1941, America was preparing for war. And here at Churchill Downs, the favorite for that Derby was a crazy colt from Calumet named Whirlaway. Whirlaway had a tendency of bearing out, and it cost him his 2 last prep races. He lost them. But he was the favorite at post time here in Louisville, perhaps because trainer Ben Jones made 2 important changes. First of all, he hired the greatest jockey of his time, Eddie Arcaro, and secondly, he devised a new kind of blinker for the colt. The changes worked like a charm, and Derby Day was, as they say, a piece of cake. Fourth, at the top of the stretch, Whirlaway exploded to an 8-length win. He ran the last quarter in 23 3/5 seconds. The chart said he exploded with much energy and finished with a rush. Arcaro said he was the runningest so-and-so I ever sat on. And across those 50 years of hot wars and cold wars, from radio to VCRs, from Peggy Lee to Madonna, anybody who saw Whirlaway run remembers fondly that flashing tail flowing in the wind.
All right, Jack. Well, who at the end of the day will stand in the winner's circle? The single survivor of the process that's led from birth to breaking to that long, hard road of training.
Once under tack, yearlings find themselves promoted to more advanced lessons, such as learning to gallop in company on the track. But surely the most complicated subject they study, and probably the most important, is the starting gate. Bad habits learned here can jeopardize a racing career. Always, the emphasis is on patience. But no matter how well the lessons are learned, only the horse itself knows the answer to the final exam. How fast can he run?
And back we come to Churchill Downs in Louisville. Hovering above is the Goodyear blimp America, looking down on this throng, which numbers about 130,000 on a very overcast day, but still the rain has held off. It is dry and the track is fast. And there is Best Pal being walked over, 36 minutes post, and in order of preference, the odds. Hansel the favorite, 2-1. Then Fly So Free, the second choice. Strike the Gold is 9-2. Best Pal in your picture, 5-1. Corporate Report, 8-1. Sea Cadet, 15-1. Out of David at 16-1. Quintana, a long shot. Lost Mountain, 60-1. Main Minister is 80-1. Happy Jazz Band, as we said, at least 99-1. Then the field. If you like any of those 5, you get them all. 5 horses for 1, and they're currently being held at 15-1. So who do you like in the 117th running of the Kentucky Derby? We've already profiled 2 of the favorites, Fly So Free and Strike the Gold. But there are other horses you can fall in love with, and as Jim Lang used to say on the dating game, and here they are.
2-year-old in 1990, Hansel won 3 races, and after a slow start this year, he's come on to win his last 2, including this triumph in the Jim Beam Stakes. Hansel's trainer, Frank Brothers, got his start in the business riding and training show horses, similar to this pole racer, and was a longtime assistant to Hall of Fame trainer Jack Van Berg. Brothers still climbs on Hansel for many of his gallops, and today he'll give a leg up to Jerry Bailey, who gets his 4th Derby mount in 17 years of riding. In 1990, Best Pal earned over $1 million, thanks in large part to this victory at the Hollywood Futurity in December. He's yet to win this year, but has worked brilliantly at Churchill the last couple of weeks. Best Pal is a gelding, and a victory would make him the first altered horse to win the Derby since Clyde Van Dusen in 1929. His owners, John and Betty Mabey, have been in the business 34 years and sent a horse to the Derby for the first time today, a horse bred at their farm outside San Diego. Best Pal's trainer learned his craft at the Newmarket Training Yards in England. London native Ian Jory saddles his 2nd Derby start this afternoon, and Best Pal will be ridden by Gary Stevens, who found the winner's circle here in 1988 with winning colors. As a 2-year-old, Lost Mountain finished 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last September, which was remarkable considering that 2.5 months earlier, he was fortunate to survive a spectacular chain reaction spill in a maiden race at Saratoga. Amazingly, he was unhurt. 2 weeks ago, Lost Mountain showed a solid return to form, finishing 2nd to Cahill Road in the Wood. His owner, John Ed Anthony, had miserable luck 4 years ago when his Demons Begone, the favorite, bled on the backstretch and pulled up. Now, let's go back to 1978.
But it's going to be a firm Steve Morgan is going to win this 104th running of the Kentucky Derby. Alador is 2nd, believe it 3rd.
Yes, 13 years ago, Affirmed won the Triple Crown, and today he's the sire of his first Derby starter, Quintana, who was claimed for $50,000 3 months ago. Meanwhile, Alidar, who died last fall, has had 3 Derby starters, including 87 winner Ali Sheba. Today, 2 more sons go to the post. The highly regarded Strike the Gold, and Ali David, who earned a spot in the field with his win last Saturday in the 1-mile Derby trial.
Some of the horses to look at, and there's a jockey to look at, and with that jockey right now is Chelsea Canty. Chelsea?
Well, Al, a good many factors point out Hansel is the horse to beat, and one of them is Jerry Bailey. And confidence is really the long suit here, Jerry. You've never been riding better than you are right now, and you and Hansel were devastating in your only 2 appearances together. How important is that today?
Well, for me, nothing's been going any better than the last year. My horse is doing well. I'm doing well. I feel great, and I hope it'll carry through the Derby.
You drew a pretty comfortable post position there. Number 6, you can see inside, outside. That's to your advantage, too.
I'm quite happy with that, yeah. I mean, providing the break goes well, I couldn't be any more pleased, so.
And Hansel's pretty versatile. No matter what the pace does, you can have him anywhere you want.
He's proven that to me the 2 times I've ridden him. I've let him lay close, eased him back, and then went again with him, and it's been no problem so far. So I'll naturally be pretty close going into the first turn, and then I'll adjust from there.
All right, everything looks pretty good for Jerry Bailey and Hansel. Right now, we'll go up to Jim McKay.
All right, Charlesy. Well, there is C. Cadet. You know, his trainer, Ron McAnally, has come to the Derby with a claustrophobic one-eyed horse, Castleria. Last year with a horse with a long silver tail called Silver Ending. And today, as they continue that long walk to the paddock, with a horse with almost no tail. This is C. Cadet. The only really good early speed horse in the race today. His rider is Chris McCarron. Chris McCarron, who is currently the leading jockey in the nation in terms of money won this year.
Chris McCarron is a smart, personable native of New England whose journeys on the racetracks have taken him to the Hall of Fame. He's always thought big.
The thing I look forward to most about riding racehorses is really riding the good horses and getting involved in the real big races.
Chris flashed to prominence as an apprentice rider in Maryland, setting a new record for races won in a single year. By 1984, he was riding the ageless John Henry to victory in the Arlington Million. His first Triple Crown win was the Belmont Stakes in 1986 on Danzig Connection. It was a historic win because it was the 5th Belmont in a row for trainer Woody Stevens. The next year, there was Ali Sheba and the Kentucky Derby.
Just being involved with the Kentucky Derby is a great thrill, but to come across the wire first and return to the winner's circle with over 100,000 screaming fans, and, well, it's been said many times, it's the most exciting 2 minutes in all sports.
Chris kept winning the big races. In 1989, he was on Sunday Silence when that colt won the Breeders' Cup Classic and stamped himself as a great champion. But last year, on a day when he was to ride Sunday Silence again, Chris was thrown in an earlier race. He thought not of pain, but of lost opportunity.
The thought that went through my mind was, God, I'm not going to be able to ride Sunday Silence in the 8th race today. And when I got to the hospital, I was thinking all kinds of crazy thoughts, like, you know, can they put some sort of a splint on it? And, of course, I knew that was impossible.
Both legs and an arm were broken. Some people started writing him off. Was he through?
I'd be lying to you if I said that I wasn't a little leery when I first got back. But it was something that I was able to accomplish and able to conquer.
This father of 3 and his wife Judy have a wonderful family, but they both remember the hard times and care about other jockeys' problems. With comedian Tim Conway, they started a fund named for the late jockey Don Macbeth.
All right, ease up now.
The Macbeth Fund was formed about 3 years ago when Tim Conway came to us with a large sum of money that he wanted to donate to a disabled riders fund. And we did some investigating, found out that there was no such thing. There was nowhere to donate it. So we said, well, we better start something, so we did.
Conway and the McCarrans put on softball games and other fundraisers for the Macbeth Fund. Tim knows the jockey's job isn't funny.
A lot of people said, it's over for Chris. That's it. He's going to retire. You don't say that to a jockey, because McCarran got up and said, oh, yeah, I'll show you. That's just the guts of a jockey. That's what their life is built on. And it's not just Chris. It's all of them. I mean, they all treat life that way.
You know, when you see accidents happen on the racetrack, you think, well, that could have been me, or, geez, that could have been worse to that guy. And it's something that as you go along in years and you get a lot more experience under your belt, it's something that you have to work a little harder at, putting in the back of your mind, putting out of your mind.
And there is Chris in the jockey's room. A little bit earlier, he was watching part of that piece, I think. It was just 11 weeks from the time he broke both legs and the arm to his return to the track. These are remarkable men. Chris has certainly overcome many injuries. And so, by the way, to the winningest jockey of all time, Bill Shoemaker, one of the bravest men of all the men who dare to ride thoroughbreds. He's fighting again now, as you know, after his tragic automobile accident. We're told he and his wife, Cindy, are watching us in Craig Hospital in Englewood, Colorado. Bill, we think of you and that brilliant, courageous move on Ferdinand that won the Derby 5 years ago as we get ready for today's race. And from everybody here, we send our wishes for your recovery and admiration for the tremendous courage you're showing in fighting this toughest battle.
Back we come to Churchill Downs, where we now go to the terrace overlooking the paddock. And Jack Whitaker with a very special guest.
One of the best-known faces in the world, General Norman Schwarzkopf. I
don't know about that now.
General, could you tell us in your own words how you felt personally the difference between returning home as a young officer from Vietnam and returning home to all of this?
Well, the obvious difference was when I came home, both tours from Vietnam, nobody knew I came home except my immediate family. And, of course, this time, it's not just me. It's all 541,000 people that are over here in the Gulf. They've been getting a marvelous welcome home from the great supporters we have all across the country. That's the difference.
Well, being a great student of history, I'm sure you know the connection between Army generals and horse racing. George Washington, General Patton, and I know Omar Bradley was not adverse to putting a bob or two on the horses. But I understand in the Schwarzkopf family, it's Mrs. Schwarzkopf. Is that true?
She has a superb technique. You know, she analyzes the colors that the jockeys are wearing. She looks at the name of the horses, somehow goes through some magical formulation, and wins every time, as a matter of fact.
Well, you're a brilliant briefer. We know that. Would you care to brief us on what Mrs. Schwarzkopf thinks about the race?
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, as with any great campaign, up until now, we've been very careful not to give away any military secrets in advance, and I'm going to have to stick to that rule. You know, whatever she's going to do is definitely has to be classified as a military secret.
This isn't CNN. You wouldn't even break it for that, huh?
I don't know. You know, Saddam may be watching, and we don't want to give him a leg up on anything, not even horse racing.
Thank you, General. Please enjoy your first Derby and know what affection and respect we hold.
Thanks very much, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
The Kentucky Derby has always been Americana, and through the years it has developed a great antenna for identifying American heroes. It began with bankers and industrialists, went to congressmen and presidents, then to Hollywood stars and astronauts and rock and roll entertainers. But nobody has ever had the impact on This Week in Louisville than Norman Schwarzkopf. He was asked to be the marshal of the parade on Thursday night, and there is another little bit of Americana. Where England, a grateful nation, gave the Duke of Wellington, the victor at Waterloo, a spacious house in the middle of London, the United States asked Norman Schwarzkopf to be a marshal of a parade. Only in America.
And perfectly put, Jack Whitaker. Norman Schwarzkopf, who has just been saluted by the crowd. The pre-race pageantry continues. Let's join the public address announcer, John Asher.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join General Schwarzkopf in honoring the men and women of Operation Desert Storm and their families by singing the national anthem, accompanied by the 113th U.S. Army Band from Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Time, about 20 minutes away, and right now another installment in our regular series on what's new in sports science and technology.
A look behind the scenes as sports and science converge, brought to you by AT&T.
Thoroughbred racehorses may seem like strong, powerful animals, but even though they race at incredible speed, they are actually very fragile. To keep their horses in peak condition, owners can send them to the Equine Sports Medicine Center at Tufts University, where they undergo a series of tests to diagnose any potential problems.
The advent of nuclear medicine and the use of high-speed treadmills allowed us to now, for the first time, look at these horses at high speed within the confines of a laboratory and allow us to apply diagnostic capabilities that normally you wouldn't be able to use.
On a treadmill, horses are checked for lameness, hoof balancing, and gait analysis. Upper airway endoscopy, also performed on the treadmill, evaluates exercise's effect on respiratory passages. Nuclear bone scans detect skeletal problems far earlier than X-rays. This preventive medicine identifies problems in time to correct them.
This sports science segment has been brought to you by AT.
Fly So Free will break from the inside, as did Ferdinand in '86, who dropped back to last and then wound up first. Allie David out of the 2-hole, Wilder than ever 3. Sea Cadet is the speed horse from the 4-hole. Then Strike the Gold and Hansel, the 2 highly regarded ones, out of 5 and 6. From post number 7 comes 40-something. Green Alligator from 8. Lost Mountain number 9. Main Minister out of the 10 slot. Walrus from 11. Corporate Report from 12. Another review out of the 13-hole. Happy Jazz Band 14. And then they go to the auxiliary gate, where Best Pal breaks from the 15 slot and Quintana from the 16 spot. And as I'm joined by Dave Johnson, let's look at some of these horses. Fly So Free, the 2-year-old champion of 1990. What do you think of his chances?
Well, he comes into the race with one of the best records ever for a horse in the Derby. 7 wins in his last 8 starts, but because he was beaten in his last start, the Bluegrass, he is not the heavy favorite. He's the one to beat, though, but I understand they had a heck of a time putting the saddle
on. And he was beaten in the Bluegrass by that horse, Strike the Gold, with Chris Antley, who keeps improving. He's answered the major questions. He's beaten Fly So Free. He didn't have to be 15 or 20 lengths out of it. He won the Bluegrass Stakes from about 5 lengths off the pace. And it's an interesting horse because many of the jockeys and trainers fear that one, Strike the Gold. Favorite is Hansel, coming off a brilliant performance in the Jim Beam Stakes and a recent win at Keeneland in the Lexington Stakes. But a question mark horse because of the level of his competition in his last 2 starts. He won so easily, we don't know how good he is. That's his trainer, Frankie Brothers, right there. With Dinar having to have been scratched a week and a half ago, Best Pal is California's best hope, trying to become the first Calbred to win since '62. Excellent 2-year-old form last year. A good horseman, Ian Jory, is the trainer. More importantly, he is peaking just at the right time. The fact that he didn't win the Santa Anita Derby doesn't mean he can't win today. Wayne Lucas has to show up in the Kentucky Derby. You know that. 10 straight years. And here's Corporate Report with Pat Day Lucas's entry. And this is a tough assignment. This horse has only had 4 starts. He's never won past 3/4 of a mile. And Pat Day is the rider, as you said. Here's an 80-to-1 shot. Maine Minister, who comes east from California with Alex Salisa. Impressive 2 starts back. If they go back to his come-from-behind tactics, he could surprise. We have a winner, clearly, of the Frequent Flyer Award. His name is Cash Asmussen. He's a Texan who races in France. He's been a great jockey there. This morning, that man was in France. This is tape from this morning. He worked the horse out in France. He got on the Concorde in Paris, landed in New York, connected to Louisville, and arrived here at Churchill Downs at about 12:30 to ride Happy Jazz Band. He'll go back to the airport, get back on the Concorde tomorrow morning, and ride tomorrow in France. Cash Asmussen, 8,000 miles in the air to go 1.25 miles on the dirt. All right, Dave, it's time. Your pick. 16 in the gate. I see it as a 4-horse race, though. Fly So Free, Strike the Gold, Hansel, and Best Pal. I've been wavering between Fly So Free and Best Pal all week, but because of the way they look in the paddock, I'm taking Best Pal. Who do you like? I think Hansel's the best horse in the race, but I've always wanted to bet an 80-to-1 shot in the Kentucky Derby, and my money, and there it is. There is my 10 spot right now on Maine Minister, as they say on the backstretch. What the hay?
The Chrysler New Yorker, 5th.
Well, the call of riders up went just about 30 seconds ago as it's 12 minutes to post. There was number 7, Maine Minister, as they begin to make their way out to the track. And here's a rundown of the odds again. You probably noticed that Fly So Free is now at 3-to-1, pretty strong second choice. The choice is still Hansel at 2-to-1, 9-to-2 on Strike the Gold as it went by. And then you will be seeing Best Pal at 5-to-1. And the field here, 5 horses for the price of 1. And the price on them, 15-to-1 at the moment. It's almost time for that song that doesn't make any difference whether you're from Kentucky or Maryland or Montana or Munich or Moscow or wherever. It always brings that bit of moisture to your eyes. There's Fly So Free. He was the Winter Book favorite earlier in the year. The old Kentucky home does exist, by the way, and this is it in Bardstown, Kentucky. That's the house that Stephen Collins Foster was writing about when he wrote that song. He only visited Kentucky a few times, but this was the place that he visited, and it is open to public these days. What a moment for a young rider. On number 16, another review, that's Art Madrid Jr. you saw a moment ago, and this is his first Derby. There's Strike the Gold with Chris Antley. Biggest chance he's had to win the great race. All headed out towards the track, towards the side of the crowd. Number 13, that was 40-something, a real long shot, being ridden by the female jockey, Andrea Seefeld. Down from Maryland, number 5, Hansel, there's the favorite, with Jerry Bailey aboard. A Virginia bred, by the way. Last Virginia bred to win was Pleasant Colony 10 years ago. Crowd, there, the jockeys for this year's Kentucky Derby, mass assembled for you. That's a memorable picture. And of course, Andrea Seefeld is in there. She's only the 3rd woman to ride in the Kentucky Derby. There is the paddock area where they have now getting ready to leave. So, you feel it at home? You certainly feel it here. Sandy True, the female bugler here. Here they come. They'll be in sight of the crowd in just a moment. Flies So Free. Santos, former Eclipse Award-winning jockey, one of the best in the world, from Chile.
117th Kentucky Derby.
Two was Ali David. There's Sea Cadet, speed horse. Strike the Gold, one of the favorites. Ansel, favorite. Lost Mountain, 70-1. They tell us at least 130,000 here today. Looks like one of the biggest we've seen in the 17 years we've been coming to Churchill for the Kentucky Derby. Fly So Free, a Kentucky bred. This is his home state. Now here comes the song, I believe. Yep. What a beautiful moment. Now let's meet them again. Number one, Fly So Free, the young and hard horse. He was a 2-year-old champion. Moving along to number 2, Ali David. He won the Derby trial on this track just a week ago today, coming back on very short rest. Number 3, as we move along, will be the bobtailed colt. His tail, by the way, cut short by nature, not man. That's Sea Cadet. There he is. The next horse we'll see will be number 4, and that's Strike the Gold, a son of Alidar. Coming out of stall number 5, by the way, an ideal post position. Probably will stalk the leaders, then make his big run in the stretch. Pride of New York. Here is the favorite, Hansel. He's won his last 2 races impressively, both in Kentucky. The Jim Beam and the Lexington come to hand right on time for the Derby. Lost Mountain at 70-1 surprises me. He should not be that long a shot. Most respectable second in the Wood Memorial 2 weeks ago. Let's move to this minute. Number 7, Maine Minister. Al's horse hasn't run since finishing 4th in the Santa Anita Derby 28 days ago. Number 8 will be Wayne Lucas and Bill Young's entry. Corporate Report, very heavily backed here, somewhat surprisingly. Second in the Arkansas Derby. He's only raced 4 times. Number 9, the long shot Happy Jazz Band, a real long shot. Cash Asmussen, of course, flew in from France to ride him. California Star number 10, Best Pal. California bred, Cal raced, Cal owned. A real threat for starting from way outside. Number 11, Quintana. He's trained by David Cross, who brought Sonny's Halo here to win the Kentucky Derby and has had nothing but bad luck. ever since. But he's back again. And now the field horses, number 12, Wilder Than Ever, he's done all his racing in Kentucky, but is not highly regarded. Number 13, 40-something, ridden by the female rider, Andrea Seafelt. Number 14, Green Alligator, seems too good a colt to be in the mutual field, but there he is. He won the California Derby. He rates a close look. Number 15, Walrus, is the first horse ever entered by the 75-year-old chairman of the board of Churchill Downs, Warner Jones. And finally, number 16, Another Review. That is the field for the 117th running of the Kentucky Derby. Now, we're here with Charles E. Canty, and one thing that has not been in short supply this week, as always in Derby week, is opinions and controversy, right?
Jim, I think this week you'll hear more than you ever need to know, and sometimes it's easy to lose focus, but the situation is simple. The 4 shortest priced horses are the story. We have Fly So Free, the champion struggling to maintain his dominance over the solid group of pretenders to his throne. There's Best Pal, who's tough and proven and consistent. There's Strike the Gold, a late bloomer, but he's in full flower now. And there's Hansel, the real Hansel, with his physical problems apparently behind him. All 4 have trained well and have enough tactical speed to stay clear of trouble, but in touch with a realistic pace which could be generated by more than just Sea Cadet alone. So the remaining issue is stamina. Because they will be the 2 happiest horses with the extra additional distance, I believe it'll be Hansel leading Strike the Gold to the wire. How about you, Jim?
Well, I can't agree with you this time. I think I'll take Fly So Free to make me very young at heart when this race is done. And we'll be back for the running of the Kentucky Derby.
Post time, a minute away, so here are the odds. Fly So Free, who's a little washy as we looked at him last, 3-1. Allie David at 17-1. Sea Cadet, look for him to go to the front, 15-1. Strike the Gold is 9-2, and Hansel is the favorite. He just went to 5-2 on the last click. Main Minister at 80-1. Corporate Report at 8-1. Happy Jazz Band at least 99-1. Best Pal at 5-1. Quintana, a long shot, 25-1. And then the field. Pick one, get all 5. They are 16-1. The crowd here has bet in excess of $5 million on the race. There's almost $3 million in the win pool, and of that $3 million, as you can see, Hansel has the most bet on him. He is the favorite at 5-2, almost $675,000 bet on the number 5 horse, who's trying to make it 3 wins in a row in the state of Kentucky over the past 5 weeks. Chrysler bonus points now for the Triple Crown. The horse that wins today's race will pick up a total of 10 points. Second place will be worth 5 points. Third is worth a total of 3. Fourth is worth 1. Any horse that competes in all 3 races and accumulates the most points in the Triple Crown wins $1 million. If you sweep it, it's $5 million. And Jim McKay, it is now post time.
And it certainly is. There are the owners. There's the owner of Fly So Free, Tommy Belando, his wife Elizabeth. Beautiful dress for the day, huh? Tommy a little bit nervous, I think. Why not? There's Nick Zito, the trainer of Strike the Gold, and Mr. Brophy, the owner, twiddling with his fingernails. And here's Frank Brothers, trainer of the favorite, Hansel. Joe Albritton, the owner, in the middle there, in profile, man who owns 5 TV stations, including an ABC affiliate in Washington. There's Ian Jory, the trainer of Best Pal, young Englishman, very personable. Has a great career ahead of him at the age of 33, and now they're moving towards the starting gate. Fly So Free in the first hole there is going to be in there a long time, Charlesy, by the time they get ready.
Number 1 post position. Quite a winning one here at the Kentucky Derby.
Last one to win from number 1 was Ferdinand, ridden by Bill Shoemaker.
Fly So Free is in the gate. There goes Allie David. The stakes and track record set by Secretariat, 1 minute 59 and 2/5 seconds, as he won the first jewel of the Triple Crown. Post positions were drawn by lot. That's why Wilder Than Ever, number 12, part of the mutual field, moves in now. Sea Cadet, the horse with no tail. Chris McCarron. Strike the Gold, 4.5-1. Here's Hansel with Jerry Bailey, the 5-2 favorite.
Green Alligator. Fly So Free has already been in the gate more than 1 minute and 6 seconds. There's Fly So Free. Pretty well behaved. Walrus, part of the mutual field. Corporate report with Pat Day. And the last horse will be moving into the main gate. Happy Jazz Band. 2 to load. Best Pal and Quintana. Almost 1 minute and 45 seconds for Fly So Free. Let's see how alertly he breaks as Angel Cordero Jr. puts Quintana in. Now it looks like we've got a few more seconds. It'll be a full 2 minutes for the load. They're all in line. And they're off in the Kentucky Derby. And Lost Mountain was squeezed a bit at the start. On the extreme outside, Best Pal shows early speed, but Sea Cadet toward the inside quickly takes command. 40-something right up there. And Corporate Report on the outside. Fly So Free is 4th along the inside, and Hansel between horses is 5th at this point. Past the stands for the first time. 3 of them battle on the front end. Sea Cadet is expected on the inside, leads by a head. 40-something is 2nd, and Corporate Report on the outside is right there 3rd. Fly So Free, tucked in at the rail, is racing 4th by a head. Allie David is 5th at this point. Then Hansel on the outside, 6th, 6 lengths off the leader. Then it's Lost Mountain at the rail, saving ground in 7th. Best Pal bullies his way between horses 8th. And Another Review is on the move 9th. On the outside, then comes Main Minister in 10th. It's 4 lengths farther back. Happy Jazz Band is 11th. Strike the Gold is 12th. Quintana on the outside is 13th. Then a gap of 5 to Walrus, Wilder Than Ever, and Green Alligator, 16th. And last at the back of the pack, the half mile in 46 2/5 seconds. It's not exceedingly fast. Chris McCarron has slowed down the pace on the front end, and he still leads it with Sea Cadet. 40-something, the long shot, part of the mutual field, up there in 2nd. And now Corporate Report with a big move. And on the outside, Hansel is in gear. Main Minister is also charging up in the middle of the racetrack. Fly So Free bides his time 5th along the inside. Best Pal and Strike the Gold begins to roll on the outside. They're tightly packed as they move to the top of the stretch. Sea Cadet on the inside leads by a head. Fly So Free now moves quickly between horses. Strike the Gold is closing stoutly in the middle of the racetrack. Main Minister is right there, and down the stretch they come. Strike the Gold on the outside with Chris Antley taking command. Along the inside, Best Pal into the 2nd spot. Main Minister is 3rd. Coming 70 yards to the finish and far away from the rail. Strike the Gold wins the Derby by 1.5 lengths. Under the wire 2nd was Best Pal. Then it was a photograph between the long shot Main Minister, and from far back, Green Alligator was in the photo for the show spot. And the time on the board, a slow Derby, 2 minutes and 3 seconds, but Strike the Gold strikes the roses this afternoon.
And so the horse who was the 2-year-old champion, who was the early winner book favorite, but was beaten 3 weeks ago at Keeneland, has won. Now here is Fly So Free. There's Fly So Free, but it's Strike the Gold, the one who beat him 3 weeks ago. And does he look all right?
Fine, and there is Hansel, who was kind of jostled around a little bit at the head of the stretch, but no real apparent excuse for him either. Strike the Gold has really run a tremendous race, lived up to the potential he had been showing all winter in Florida.
Well, as we said 3 weeks ago, he beat the winter book favorite, Fly So Free. He's beaten him again today. Strike the Gold was 2nd in the Florida Derby, but he's been an improving horse right along.
He was a good 2nd in that Florida Derby. He was shuffled back a little bit at the start, closed well, maybe could have caught Fly So Free that day. He turned the tables, obviously, in the bluegrass, and today he was dominant. Look at a happy Chris Antley there, giving him a hug around the neck.
Chris Antley. Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Have any problems during the race?
No problem.
No problems
no,
at all.
Sir, I had a real good trip, and I went ahead and went outside early around the turn. This pole ran in the dirt real fine today, but it looked like there was a little traffic problem, and I wanted to be out of the way of it.
Okay. Well, we'll be seeing you later. You got a car in your future, by the way.
Yes, sir.
Unofficial results, remember. No sign of an objection. They won't know about that, so the jockey's way out, but it's unofficially Strike the Gold, Best Pal, and Main Minister.
The winner of the 1991 Kentucky Derby, his name is Strike the Gold. He made his debut as a 2-year-old at Belmont last October 11th and finished 9th in a 13-horse field. Broke his maiden in November at Aqueduct. Mike Smith used to ride him, and the results are now official. Strike the Gold pays $11.60, $6.20, and $5.40. Best Pal, $6.40 and $5.40, and Main Minister, who went off at 80-1, pays $25.60 to show the exact of the 4 and the 10, paying $73.40. So Strike the Gold, going off at 9-2, winds up winning the Kentucky Derby. Strike the Gold, ridden by Chris Antley. Posing for the picture, and of course, the fabled and famed blanket of roses adorning the winner of the Kentucky Derby. Meanwhile, let's go to Chelsea Canty, who has Jerry Bailey with her. Chelsea?
Well, Hansel was a huge disappointment as the favorite. Jerry Bailey, of course, was aboard. What happened?
No apparent excuses, at least not on the racetrack. My break was good. I held my position the way I wanted to in the first turn. I had a feeling I might be in trouble in the middle of the backstretch. He wasn't pulling me like he usually does, and although he did keep his position to the top of the stretch, I really didn't have much punch left.
He looked like he was in between horses, and Jerry, it was hard to miss his big white face. It looked like his head came up enormously high.
Well, he was uncomfortable, and due to what, I really don't know. Nothing apparently during the race, but it might show back up at the barn. I don't know.
All right, Jerry, better luck next year.
Okay.
Thank you, and back to Al Michaels.
All right, Chelsea, and joined again by Dave Johnson, who called the race. We're going to take a look at the isolated replay of Strike the Gold, who wears number 4 and breaks from post number 5.
And this is a horse that had the big move like Unbridled did last time. He got away cleanly, and see Cadet dashing to the front. And as you see on the outside, it's going to be 40-something in the orange cap, and he's going to be aggravations for about 3/4 of a mile, ridden by Andrea Seefeld. Those two went into a meltdown as Strike the Gold picked up all the pieces.
Strike the Gold, placed nicely here, middle of the pack, saving some ground, quite similar in a sense to the way he ran at Gulfstream Park in the Florida Derby, where he finished second, and then in the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland.
And Chris Antley, who was aboard the favorite in the Kentucky Derby in 1988 with Private Terms, brings home a semi-long shot here this afternoon. That's Happy Jazz Band in the orange and white moving through along the inside, but Antley has not asked for the speed yet. And the fractions were sort of slow, 1:37.2 for the mile, and the final 1.25 miles in 2:03. We're watching the isolated replay. There in the blue cap and the pink colors that Strike the Gold, who will begin to circle horses on the far turn.
He will, and you'll see he'll, I believe, get into the wake of number 7, Main Minister, who will go to the outside, and Main Minister starts to make his move here, going to the outside. Now it looks as if the winner, the eventual winner, might be squeezed, but Antley finds that hole, and here he goes, and now he really lets him go.
And he's going to be following Best Pal in the maroon and yellow cap up here, and now he's going to tip to the outside. The 80-1 shot that you like, the 7 horse, is roaring in front of them. Fly So Free on the inside, had a perfect trip, but just could not keep up. There's Strike the Gold on the outside.
See Cadet giving up the lead here at the head of the stretch, and it's a long stretch here. It's 1/4 mile from the top of the lane to the finish line, and there he takes the lead at about the 8th pole on the far outside. Number 4, Strike the Gold, who will get up for the win. Best Pal will wind up second, and Main Minister will finish third.
Bearing out quite a bit through the stretch, but this horse has a winning habit here in Kentucky, and he wins the Roses this afternoon. Chris Antley with his whip raised in victory.
And we had Nick Zito and Giles Brophy, one of the owners. Mike.
Get this horse up there, man. Oh, it's 8 wide. 8 wide. 8 wide.
Nick Zito, who sounds like he has laryngitis anyway, will really have it tonight, but he can afford some cough drops. There it is again, the official results. Strike the Gold has won the 117th running of the Kentucky Derby, and here is the complete order of finish, which we will have when we come back, along with the presentation ceremony. Strike the Gold, the winner of the 1991 Kentucky Derby.
Let's have a look at the final order of finish. Strike the Gold is the official winner. Best Pal, Maine Minister. Green Alligator did well. Fly So Free was 5th. Quintana 6th. Then you see Walrus did very well. Sea Cadet, the speed horse. Then Corporate Report. Hansel, the favorite, finished 10th. Happy Jazz Band, Lost Mountain, another review. Ali David, Wilder Than Ever, and 40-something brought up the rear. Time for a congratulations again to Tom Meeker, the president of Churchill Downs, on another great day and a great week here in Kentucky. Thanks, Tom.
Well, Jim, it's a great day for America. Today we have the honor of having with us General Schwarzkopf and his family, and it's been a great day for Kentucky. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Wallace Wilkinson.
Here we are again, Governor. Governor, you're on.
Jim, on behalf of all Kentuckians, I want to say again, welcome to the world for the greatest 2 minutes in sports. And I've just said to Mr. and Mrs. Brophy here that there is no question that this is the most coveted trophy in the world. And I congratulate them today, and it is my honor, on behalf of Churchill Downs and all of the people of this Commonwealth, to present this trophy to Mr. and Mrs. Brophy, and congratulations for winning the greatest sporting event in the world.
Not to forget Joe Carnascia and Bill Condren back there, too. Giles, we had you balling up there, and you deserved that moment.
Well, I don't know about that. Gosh knows what happened. I'm just so happy we won. I mean, I think we have the best trainer in the world and the best jockey in the world, and we have the best horse going right now, and God bless them all. And I just can't be happy to have this horse win and 36 Red. I mean, how much greater than this does it get for one guy in one day? And also to meet the general here.
What a day. 36 Red, by the way, also won at Churchill Downs here today. Congratulations also to Joe Carnascia and Bill Condren. Big day at Pine Tree Golf Club in Florida, I think. Nick Zito, come in here just for a moment. The trainer, congratulations.
Thanks,
what a
Mr.
wonderful
Kay,
job you did bringing this horse to the Derby.
Thank you very much. And what could I say? I'd like to thank 3 cities, please. I'd like to thank New York City. I'd like to thank the great city of Lexington. And then I'd like to thank the greatest city in the world, Louisville, Kentucky.
All right. General Schwarzkopf, you picked a good Derby. Come to for your first one, I think. What's your impression?
Well, this has to be absolutely the greatest 2 minutes in the world of sports. No question about it. It's been an exciting day. And, you know, to be up here, they told me they were going to win before the race, so I knew what was going to happen. But it was a great campaign and a great winner.
Did you have a lot of winners today?
Oh, I had nothing but winners today.
All in tips from your wife, I assume.
No, let me tell you what, I've been commanding winners for the last 9 months.
You sure have. General Schwarzkopf, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we have an automobile that's going to go to a wonderfully talented jockey, so stand by.
There are more stories in the Kentucky Derby than there are in the Naked City, and this was one of them. Aladara's second Kentucky Derby winner, Alashiba, and now Strike the Gold. Unfortunately, Aladar left us, but he's going to leave behind a legacy that may make him one of the great sires of all times. It also blows a tremendous hole in the dosage philosophy, thank goodness. We will not hear ad nauseum now that nobody with a dosage over 4 has ever won a Derby since Clyde Van Dusen. Now, it has been a bad time for racing these past few months. One of our best jockeys lies paralyzed in a hospital. We lost Laz Barrera, one of the great trainers of all time. Several of our farms are teetering on bankruptcy. But horse racing requires great hope, and that's what we had here today, a lesson in hope. It keeps us going. Things are going to get better. Now, if only Bill Shoemaker could move a muscle or two. Jim?
Thank you very much, Jack. There is the Goodyear Blimp America overhead, which has given us many great pictures today. Incidentally, you know, Strike the Gold won his first race on the very day that his sire, the great Alydar died here in Kentucky. Wonderful day for Strike the Gold, who now gets 10 bonus points going towards the possible $5 million bonus for anyone who wins the Triple Crown from Chrysler. Best Pal has 5, Maine Minister 3, and Green Alligator has 1. The horse that wins the $1 million bonus, if there's no Triple Crown winner, must start and finish in all 3 races. And, of course, the Preakness is the next one. We're here with Lee Iacocca, the chairman of the board of Chrysler, and you picked a good one to come to today.
And how? This is a great one. So we're rooting for him to go on to Pimlico and then on to Belmont, and we'll be back to give him $5 million.
You're eager to give that money away?
No, not that eager. I don't know about Belmont. I know who I'll be rooting for then.
Okay. Good to have you with us, Lee.
Nice to be here.
And there's Jim Holden, the general manager of the Chrysler Plymouth division, with a little something for Chris Antley, right?
Yeah, I sure do, Chris. You ran a heck of a race today, and congratulations on winning the Derby. With that comes a little something for you, the keys to a new Chrysler LeBaron convertible. And also along with that, that gives you the first leg now of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge, where over the next month or so, you can go on toward $5 million worth of purse money. So we wish you all the best, and hope you enjoy driving that new Chrysler convertible.
Thank you.
Well, Chris, maybe we can take another look now at the race. You've had your problems at life. At age 25, you're all the way back. You've won the Kentucky Derby. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jim.
Let's take a look at the race. Here we go.
For the load. They're all in line.
Well, my horse broke real sharp. There's a lot of speed all around me, and I just wanted to make sure he got to the first turn without dropping too far out of it like he did in the past Florida Derby. I started nudging on him right here just to stay right up behind the leaders, and from there I let him settle after we went around the first turn.
So things were pretty much as you wanted them, huh?
Yeah, they worked out pretty much as I thought it would. There was a lot of speed in the race, or if not, lay close horses, and my horse normally comes from pretty far back, and I didn't expect to be too close anyways. I gave him a little breather midway down the backside, and
he's running easily at this point, obviously.
Yeah, so he's running real easy. Angel's outside of me, and he's talking to me. He looked over and he said, "How much horse you got, Poppy?" And I said, "Well, I'm sitting pretty good right now."
This was Cordero, huh?
Yeah, Angel's talking to me the whole way down to the backside. And
really?
Yes.
What'd you say?
Well, I'm concentrating on the front right now. I told him I got a good bit of horse, and I just wanted to bide my time, and I stayed inside early on. Right here, horses, coming to the turn, they're starting to bunch up a little bit, and Strike the Gold's not the kind of horse that drags you up there. You kind of have to urge him on to do it, but he responded well when I asked him. I run up behind the horses right here, and I saw a couple horses steadying in front of me, and the front horses were riding, so I went ahead and went straight to the outside. I wanted to be there at the quarter pole.
Right where you wanted to be right now, beginning to move.
Yes, he's cruising up to him pretty easy, and the front horses have been riding since we went into the turn. And I just showed him the whip a little bit right here, and each time I showed it to him, he excelled a little faster. Right.
Now he started to bear out on you, didn't he?
Well, he didn't really bear out. He has a habit of not switching leads, and that was the main thing he did last time that made him beat Fly So Free. And as soon as we went on and I went by the horses, the first time I hit him, he went right over to his right lead, and he finished up strong. And he drifted a little bit just for me hitting him, but that was no problem.
And he won the Kentucky Derby. Strike the Gold. Chris, if you're going to keep having long conversations during the Triple Crown race, we'll have to put a mic on you.
Well, I won't mind.
One quick question for Giles Brophy. Giles, I assume we're on to the Preakness.
We're on to Maryland crab cakes.
We got plenty of them up there for you, I'll tell you. So that is the story. The 117th Kentucky Derby is history, and the winner is Strike the Gold. See you at the Preakness in 2 weeks.
Tomorrow on ABC Sports, it's World League action as the New York, New Jersey Knights battle the Raleigh-Durham Skyhawks. Next Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports, top athletes compete for the gold at the World Professional Gymnastics Championships, plus the Pimlico Special live. Now stay tuned for your local news and world news Saturday, except on the West Coast. Stay tuned for third-round coverage of the GTE Byron Nelson Classic. ABC's Wide World of Sports presentation of the Kentucky Derby has been brought to you by Chrysler, where luxury is engineered to give you the advantage. By Delta Airlines, we love to fly and it shows. And by MCI, the long-distance phone company. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.
You should survive to 105. Look
at all you'll derive out of being alive. And here is the best part. You have a head start if you are among the very young at heart.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. In our 30th anniversary season, this is ABC's Wide World of Sports. The first Saturday in May, old Churchill Downs, beautiful horses and brave riders, 125,000 people, my old Kentucky home, and the Kentucky Derby. Maybe that's why we all feel young at heart on this day, because it's always the same. It's never missed a running since 1875. Through wars and floods and tornadoes, somehow the Derby always goes on. We're young at heart when we remember the first Derby we ever saw, or maybe we heard the exciting, gravelly voice of Clem McCarthy describing it on the radio. The Derby's enthusiasm and tradition and all the years of our lives, because it's always been there since the day we were born, no matter our calendar age. It's time to be young again. As ABC Sports presents the first leg of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge, the Kentucky Derby. Hello, I'm Jim McKay. So we've traveled the long road to the Derby again, to Florida, then California, Kentucky, New York, and back to Kentucky, following and getting to know the best of the three-year-old thoroughbreds. Today we have everything that we have learned along the way wrapped into one package for you. So before the race begins, you'll know much more about the horses, the owners, the trainers, and the jockeys than you do right now. I can tell you there are four top favorites. Fly So Free, the champion two-year-old of 1990, winner of the Florida Derby. Strike the Gold, conqueror of Fly So Free 3 weeks ago in the Bluegrass Stakes. There's Best Pal, this year's challenger from the West Coast, and Hansel, the current favorite in the odds, an improving horse on a two-race winning streak. We've come up with an absolutely interesting day, let's say. It's overcast. It's been very warm and muggy, temperature in the high 70s. Still looks like we could have rain, but we don't at the moment. But temperature-wise, it is a perfect day for ladies' silk dresses and the jockeys' silk blouses. Now, though, let's move over to my ABC Sports colleague, now a thoroughbred owner himself, Mr. Al Michaels.
James, I am just following in your footsteps, and save me a spot in the winner's circle someday, will you? You know, none of us know what will take place in the Kentucky Derby, but there's a good chance we're going to leave here today with a vivid memory. Consider the recent history of this race. Go back 5 years, 1986. The tremendous ride by Bill Shoemaker on Ferdinand, who took Ferdinand from
the young, three-year-old thoroughbreds in the first flush of their talent, half matured, but none have run 1.25 miles, and today they'll learn how difficult that is. It's for the young at heart, for Tommy Volando, a successful music publisher for decades, who has found new excitement in the first horse he has raced by himself, Fly So Free, one of the favorites in today's race. Of all the songs Tommy Volando has published, the one that reminds him most of Fly So Free is Young at Heart. The Kentucky Derby is for the young. It was for Steve Cawthon at age 18. He won the Derby on Affirmed and went on to sweep the Triple Crown. But the Derby is for the young at heart, too. For Bill Shoemaker, winning his 4th Kentucky Derby at age 54, celebrating the victory with his old pal Charlie Whittingham, winning his 1st at age 73. The Derby's for the young, gathered in the infield by the tens of thousands, celebrating a rite of the American spring as much as they celebrate the race itself. And it's for the young at heart. It took Frances Genter a half-century just to get a horse to run in the Derby, but when she did, it was unbridled, winning last year.
Kentucky Derby. Oh, Miss Genter, I love you. Oh.
Yes, this race, the greatest race of all, is for the young. And it's for the young at heart.
And if you last to first for Charlie Whittingham. Then in 1987, coming down the stretch, Ali Sheba clipping heels with Bet Twice, but Chris McCarron was able to right him and ride him into the winner's circle. In 88, the filly came to town, winning colors. She took the lead out of the gate, turned around and said, "Catch me if you can, boys." And they couldn't, and she went wire to wire. In 1989, you had the great East-West confrontation, the beginning of a tremendous rivalry between Sunday Silence and Easy Goer, with Sunday Silence winning it for Whittingham. And then last year, well, you just saw it on the videotape, the unforgettable scenes with Frances Genter and Carl Nosker calling the race for her, unbridled crossing the line. What memory will we take with us today? Well, we'll know in about 60 minutes. The Kentucky Derby, the particulars. The purse is over $900,000 with about $650,000 to the winner. The distance is 1.25 miles. The track condition is fast. We had a light sprinkle last night, no problem. The temperature is a humid 74 degrees. And now the field. These are not the post positions, but the program numbers. We'll have the posts for you later. Fly So Free starts from the inside. He is 4-1. Number 2 is Allie David at 16-1. Sea Cadet is a speed horse. Figures to go to the front, 14-1. Strike the Gold is 4-1. And the favorite, as we come on the air today, is Hansel, who has won his last 2 races. He's 2-1. Then there's Lost Mountain, a long shot at 60-1. Maine Minister comes east from California at 70-1. Wayne Lucas's Corporate Report with some decent backing at 8-1. Happy Jazz Band, the board only goes to 99-1. We've computed it. He's actually 104-1 if you're interested. Best Pal is 5-1. Quintana, a long shot, is 25-1. And then if you like any of these horses, you bet one, you get them all. They comprise the field. Wilder Than Ever, 40-something, Green Alligator, Paulris, and Another Review at 14-1. Not just $900,000 at stake today, but a lot involved in the Triple Crown as well. If you start all 3 races and win any of them, first place is worth 10 points. Second place this year worth 5. Third is 3. Fourth place for the first time is worth 1 point. 1 point for fourth. The horse with the most points takes home $1 million. If a horse sweeps the Triple Crown, $5 million to that horse's connections. So those are the particulars for the 117th running of the Kentucky Derby. And let's send it back down to you, Jim.
All right, Al, let's have a look right now. There he is, one of the favorites, Fly So Free. You know, he knows it's race day because he hasn't been fed since breakfast. The life of a thoroughbred always is a very long, highly structured adventure starting in Perth.
Nearly 50,000 times a year in late winter, this scene is reenacted at thoroughbred nurseries throughout the United States. Within an hour of birth, legs which will someday fly upwards of 30 miles an hour are test-driven for the first time. But for nearly 8 months, keeping up with Mom will be the only competition. In September comes the trauma of weaning. But once separated from their mothers,